Did it ever feel like there's not enough time in the day? Or do you feel like you've been working on many, many different things and nothing seems like it's coming together? Like you're stressed about, where the money's coming from for your bills and, for the things that your children need, the things that you need, in your household, food, gas, things of that nature. And you find yourself, running in many different directions. What do you think that's doing to your health? Do you realize that a lot of people become ill because they just don't get enough rest? And why is it important to rest? We'll talk about that in just a second. Welcome to Embracing the Fight. I am Erica Lamar, your digital creator and host. And if you've been with me since January of 2023, you will know that Embracing the Fight is about normalizing the conversations surrounding physical and mental health issues and concerns. And I started this conversation off because I had thyroid cancer. And I had a lot of people asking, you're tired, what's wrong? And it's one of those things that you really don't talk about, especially like not in the workplace, because you start thinking that people are going to treat you different because, oh, she can't perform her job anymore because, she's not well, that sort of thing. Or they try to, handle you with kid gloves because they think you're going to break. So that's why I started Embracing the Fight. So we can just talk about these things, normalize those conversations so people don't just freak out and treat you differently because you're dealing with an illness or a disorder. Because just because you're dealing with an illness or a disorder doesn't mean that you should be ostracized or treated differently. All right. So if you would like to come on Embracing the Fight and share your story, I would absolutely love to have you. So you can either comment below that you would like to be on Embracing the Fight, or you can send an email to operations@diversitydesigned.com, or you can reach out to me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and X. The only difference in my name for Embracing the Fight is on Instagram, and it's Embracing the Fight _. So now let's just jump back into, what I was talking about when it comes to getting rest. Let's look at it like this. You work, if you work for a company, you work a minimum of 40 hours a week. Some people do these rotating shifts where they work, a 12-hour shift for 3 days, and then they off 2 days, and they're on 4 days, and it's going from night to day, and it's, throwing off their circadian rhythm. And once that happens, then you notice, a change in your body. You can become stressed, you're tired, you're not giving, of your best self. So what a lot of people don't understand is even if you're not physically, exerting yourself at work, when you are using your brain, you're constantly thinking, constantly trying different things or doing, new things, your brain also needs to rest. So let's look at an example. Imagine if you are a teacher, right? You've been off the entire summer, so you've gotten the opportunity to rest and do different things. That is, if you haven't started a grant program or some summer program somewhere you're volunteering or you're doing, something, like that all summer long. Let's just say you had the opportunity to rest and you're on a beach somewhere, you're enjoying, your time off. When you come back to school and you start having to have a structured day where you're teaching kids all day long and then you're planning, and then after the kids are gone you're still working to clean up your classroom, you are having meetings with your principal, different things of that nature. You by the time you get home it's late, you're tired. But guess what? Just because you get home and tired doesn't mean that life stops. So when you get home, you might be grading papers. You might be, going over things on, I don't know if they use Google Workspace or, Google Classroom, whatever. You might be going over, the items there. You still, have a family. You still have to eat. And even if you don't have a family, you still have yourself. You still have to eat. You still want to shower. You still, have to find some way to unwind. A lot of people don't do that. What happens is they keep saying, you know what, I got off work, but I still got to do all these other things to make sure that my work day goes fine the next day. And they do that up until the weekend. So 5 days of no rest, and then 2 days where you try to squeeze in some type of fun or some type of activity, and then a little bit of rest. That's not enough rest. You are burning the candle at both ends. And you'll notice that your body starts to respond to that. For instance, when I was working 16-hour days, and it felt like when I got home, all I could do was eat, shower, and go to sleep. I started gaining weight and I started being, like tired and irritable. Even though I didn't take it out on anyone, I was still, just frustrated all the time. And that's when I really, started noticing that my blood pressure was going up. And then I ended up finding that I had thyroid cancer. So after some reading, I found that when you have a lot of stress and you don't have a way to really expend it, that certain organs will take that on. And in my case, I feel like the thyroid is what took it on. And it took all this stress. And then I wasn't eating properly and I was always tired. And your thyroid is like where the metabolism and the joy of all energy happens, right? So your body temperature, everything is regulated there. So just imagine that everything that was going on in my world, it's like I was imploding, but it was all going to my thyroid. So then I developed thyroid cancer. And from there, you know, the story, they've taken it out, everything. And now I don't work for that company anymore. My stress, level is way, way down. My blood pressure, is pretty normal these days, even though I still take, a diuretic, but I could remedy all that by exercising and, exercising more and really focusing on my eating habits. But I realized the impact their rest had on me. Because going from those 16-hour days to waking up when I want to and going to sleep when I want to, and I get, 8 hours of sleep or more, I look at my Fitbit from, when I was working. I can go back and look in time to see, what my readiness was like, mental clarity, all that. It basically shows it here. So now that I'm able to get, more sleep, I feel better. My mind is more active. It's more, you know, I'm just ready. I'm more myself when I get my rest. And then something else that I found is I'm extremely, productive when I get rest. For example, I for the life of me could not finish writing this book. And I was like, why can't I write this book? It wasn't that I couldn't, I was just tired. I was mentally exhausted. But now that I'm at a point where I can actually sit down and pen the things that I'm thinking, then 9 times out of 10, I'll be able to finish, several books. I could put out, a whole series of something because I've actually rested. Rest is essential. It's as essential as eating because imagine you think about, people that, are homeless. When you see these people, out in the street, under the bridge, they look like they haven't slept in days because there are a lot of things that they're dealing with. The anxiety of being homeless, the fear of being, attacked, the fear of being relocated. Imagine you sleep on a bridge in the middle of the night, the police come up with their lights blaring and they getting you out of there because they don't want you over there. Then you got to go somewhere else. And then say if you go to a rural area and you try to lay down and sleep, you got to think about the animals, out there that may want to, decide that you're dinner for the evening. You have all these things going on, so you can't get, a good night's sleep. And with that going on, you find that, some homeless people resort to drugs, alcohol, things that are even more detrimental to the health because they can't get rest. So then think about the people that are not homeless, that cannot rest, that don't sleep, and they start taking, different types of medications to help them sleep, and they get addicted to those things. Or say they want to stay up longer because they feel like, oh, the longer I stay up, the more productive I can be. And they start taking medicine and drugs and drinking and doing all these different things to keep themselves awake and alert when they don't realize that their body hasn't had a chance to reset. And when your body can't reset, it can't heal. So if you have anything that's going on in your body and you're not giving your body the proper rest, then whatever it is going to be ravaging your immune system. It's going to ravage your organs. It's going to cause all of these different issues because you didn't sit down, you didn't rest, you didn't, take the time to step away from the things that you're doing each and every day. So it's paramount importance that you take time to rest. Now, a lot of people say, well, I get enough sleep or whatever. But you know what? I thought I was getting enough sleep too until I looked at my Fitbit and they started telling me that I was getting like maybe an hour and a half of that REM sleep that you need to actually reset and heal your body. I was only getting an hour. But now I look at it, I get 4 or 5 hours of it. I mean, I'm dead to the world because I know previously, I had conversations with my brother and my mom and sister about me being a very light sleeper. Like Nat could sneeze in the next room and I wake up. I don't have that problem anymore because I've actually given my body the type of rest and relaxation that I need in order to reach that deep sleep. So some people ask, how do you get yourself to a level where you can get that deep sleep? Well, there are several things that you can do. One, you can exercise. You can tire yourself out. You can run and jump and lift and, do whatever it is you do to exercise. Take a calming bath with soft music afterward, and then read. So essentially what you're doing is you're tiring your body out. You're cleansing your body, of those toxins. And then you're reading something that calms your mind. The thing that keeps you awake the most is a mind that races. So when your mind is thinking a million different things, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to be awake while you sleep because your mind is still going, 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 going. For instance, that's why I don't really watch TV, at night. I don't watch much TV anyway. But when I'm in the bed, if I had a TV on, it's because I want to stay awake. It's not because I don't, it's not because I want to go to sleep. Because all the while the TV is going, my mind is actively listening and I can recall what I heard, even if I think I'm asleep. So if you really want restful sleep, make sure that you turn your TV off and you actually read something that causes your mind to calm. Now, don't be one of these people that gets a book that, you just really love and really enjoy. It's got thousands of pages and you find yourself awake at 3 o'clock in the morning because you just couldn't put it down. I'm not saying that. I'm saying find something that, is a calming subject that you can just read a little bit of, feel your eyes getting heavy, put the book down and go to sleep. Because at this point, like I said, your body is relaxed. Now your mind's relaxed and you're going to reach that REM sleep. Another thing you can do is make sure you have yourself like on a schedule. That way your body feels safe to get into that REM sleep. Now, if you constantly running around and jumping over here and jumping over there and doing this for this person and that person, and you're not focused on, at 6 o'clock, like if you're a plane every day, 6 o'clock you're landing. And you have your landing gear has to come out, you have to get clearance, and there has to be a clear runway. That's literally what you have to do when you start getting ready to go to sleep. Because once you do that, your body knows, okay, it's that time. It's time for me to start, winding down. It's about to happen. That's what it is. And then too, something else that a lot of people don't realize is, naps are essential. Yes, they are, because I take a nap, most days. I do like maybe 30 minutes or so. But you have to realize that your naps can't be a deep sleep because that'll interrupt, how you sleep at night. And then too, it could throw off your schedule because what if you had things planned, you wake up and you're like, oh, I slept too long. You don't want to throw your body into a tizzy, doing that. So what I do is when I get ready to take a nap, I set an alarm for it to go off first for me to take the nap. To say, okay, in the next 20 minutes, you're supposed to take a nap. And then once I take the nap, after those 30 minutes or so, or 45 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, I'll just be honest. I set an alarm. So when the alarm goes off, I know, get up, wake up, do whatever you got to do to wake yourself up. Don't let yourself keep sleeping because if you do, next thing you know, it's going to go from light to dark and you'll be like, dang, now I got to get back into bed. But at this point, You really aren't sleeping. This isn't, you know, the type of rest that you want because sometimes if you sleep too much, you wake up tired. I don't know how that works, but it happens. So what I need you to do is really focus, on what it takes for you to wind down, what it takes for you to really truly rest. Because when you're able to rest, like I said, you give your body the opportunity to heal. For instance, you drink a bottle of water, before you go to sleep. Sometime during that night or early in the morning, you're going to have to go to the bathroom. You know why that is? Because your body is continually doing the functions that it does when you're, awake, but it's able to do it more efficiently because it's not fighting the energy that you're using to say walk around, to clean up, to do all these different things. It's able to focus on your body at a steady state. So who doesn't want to be reset while they're sleeping? I mean, it makes perfect sense. That's why, you think about, I don't know if you've ever noticed when a person, goes to a hospital and sometimes when they get out of the hospital, they've lost weight or, all these different things. It's because when they're giving you, your hospital food or whatever, there's a certain amount of calories, that they're giving you because they know that while you're lying down, your body needs a certain amount of energy. So your body is burning this energy because it's carrying out all the processes that it normally carries out. And because it's a reduced caloric intake, 9 times out of 10 than what you're eating when you're outside, and your body's burning that energy, you're losing that weight. And then when you get out, people are like, man, you lost weight, your skin's clear, this is that. And it's like you don't even look like you've been sick. And it's only because you allowed your body the time to rest. And while it was resting, it was healing. So when you start thinking about, all the different ailments and the illnesses that you have you given your body the proper rest to heal? Also, you think about, let's just say sports injuries. Like if you twist your ankle, man, sometimes now when you twist your ankle, it takes months, for it to actually, heal instead of weeks, mainly because of age or because you just won't sit down. So when you have an injury, you have to make sure that you are resting that part of your body so it can heal. You can either use ice or heat, depending on what the doctor told you to do to help heal it. But I've never heard a doctor say, oh, you broke your arm. Well, in a couple of weeks, go try to pick something up, go lift some weights, go do, XYZ. Or even like, let's just think of after surgery. Like when I had fibroid surgery back in 2018, it was like they told me I couldn't lift any more than like 5 pounds. And it was like, dang, I can't pick up more than 5 pounds because my body needed the time to heal. You think about your core is where your strength comes from. Whether you know it or not, if you're picking something up, you are activating those muscles. And just imagine if I had been disobedient and decided, okay, I just want to pick up some random stuff. I could have, torn those the stitches open, the staples. I could have had some really bad issues going on internally and would never have had any idea. So make sure when you have surgery or you have an injury, you give your body the proper time to heal. Because if you don't, then you're going to be forced to rest anyway, because they're going to have to go back in and correct whatever you messed up when you decided you didn't want to rest. So just know that rest is essential for healing. If you want to feel better, if you want your body, to feel and perform better, make sure that you're getting adequate rest. And remember, like I said, you don't want to get too much rest because then you're going to feel like, you've done too much. So you have to experiment with yourself to find a happy medium. Because if you're one of these people right now that's stressed out and you're always tired, then you haven't found that happy medium. You have to test it out. You have to try things. You have to, like I said, set up a time for nap time or set up a time when you are going to exercise and, really, really stretch, really, really, get your body relaxed. So when it comes time to sleep, you make sure you've showered and, you put on some lavender, some type of calming scent that helps you to sleep. Or if you want to burn a candle that has a soft, soothing smell, do that. Or if you want to change the lighting in your room to a softer light, so you can leave the lights on, or you can set a timer or something that causes the lights to go off as your body feels heavy. Because what happens, I've noticed, if I'm like on my bed, and I've done this before, and I'll be like, dang, why did I do that? I'll be about to fall asleep, and then I realize I left the light on. And I can't throw anything over there to make it go off. I have to get up and turn it off. But what I've started doing is turn that light off, and I have a light or a lamp next to my bed that has a very soft light. And if I turn that on, when it comes time for me to fall asleep, I can fall asleep without, having to turn it off, or I can set the little timer on my phone for it to turn off. It's so simple. And a lot of people's like, well, how do you do that? They have these LED lights, and they have these switches that you can plug, your lamp or whatever into, that has a timer on it. That is, if you haven't purchased a lamp that, has like AI that you can tell turn itself off, that kind of thing. Whatever you need to do, figure out that once your body starts to fall asleep, that you don't disturb it by having to get up and do something else. And that's what helps you to fall into that deep, deep sleep. Because once your body hits that stride and starts to fall asleep, and you jump up to go do something else, then it's kind of hard for it to relax, settle down, and get back to that point. All right. So within the next week, make sure that you are noting, your sleep habits, so you can figure out the different things that you want to change. You have to make some type of baseline. You have to say, okay, this is what time I fall asleep. This is my, sleep regimen. This is what I do, before I go to sleep. And this is what I feel like when I wake up. And you start taking note of it, it's easier for you to change something and, move the control to see, okay, if I go to sleep at 6:30, then I wake up feeling refreshed. Or if I go to sleep at 9 o'clock, then I feel extremely refreshed. Or if I go to sleep at 11:30, there's no way I'm going to function well, the next day. You just make sure that you are paying attention to the times that you fall asleep and the things that you did, to fall asleep, so you can recreate it to make sure that you get the most rest possible. That way, it allows your body to heal. People who are well rested usually don't have high blood pressure. They usually don't have, arthritis and all these different ailments, because their body has rested. Now, sure, people that rest, I'm not saying that they, surpass all these other things. Like, they can get injured, they can have, genetically predisposed disorders. But I'm saying just random average person, if they're well rested, they look well rested, and they don't have as many illnesses or disorders that they're dealing with. So try it out. See what happens when you get rest. And I would love to hear about it. So thank you all for taking a moment out to listen to this episode of Embracing the Fight. And y'all, do what you can to get your rest. Have an absolutely amazing day.